Okay, we got This Could Destroy the History of Video Games from Optimus. All right, this is new to me, but let me see.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a really sad and dark and pretty grim ruling, in my opinion, for the video game industry. As you guys probably know, if you've been like a long-term viewer here on the channel, I am a big proponent, and I've made plenty of content and things talking about video game preservation, video game emulation, things like this, right? It is something that I'm pretty passionate about because I feel like not only just me, but so many of us in the gaming scene or whatever, right? You know, we look back extremely fondly on the past in video games, you know, all the
Yeah, and also a lot of modern video games just suck, and the ones back in the day were better. There's less political bullshit in it. There was just the story, and that was it. You could just enjoy the story, not have to worry about social bullshit, and yeah.
games that we grew up playing as kids, no matter what age you are, you know what I mean? If you're in your 20s like me and you grew up with the GameCube and
Or 35.
the PlayStation 2 and things like this, or even if you're old enough to remember the beginning, basically.
What do you mean, dude? What do you mean the beginning? Like Pong? I wasn't there for Pong. I mean, I was there for Mario. Remember the NES with that orange gun and Duck Hunt, the combo thing that they gave you? I was there for that. I wasn't back in like the Pong days. Come on.
Of the commercial video game market, we all look back extremely fondly on it, whether it be one or dozens of games from our childhood that have basically influenced us in a bunch of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Well, video game preservation has been a pretty hot button topic, not even just in the video.
You want to know why I think it's a hot button topic? Is because not a lot of people, or I would say a lot of the consumer base of video games, they are not as, I don't know, willing to, they're not buying new video games as much as they used to back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago. They're just not. There's so many free-to-play games. You can have it is a gamer's market, not so much a developer's market. It's a gamer's market. With how many different live service games there are, you don't have to pay to play. A lot of the, at least in the Western, United States, a lot of free-to-play games in the United States, there's not a lot of pay-to-win aspects. There's some, you could argue a little bit here and there, which is fine. But for the most part, if you're trying to get in on like a pay-to-win game, the audience is so small and niche. Like, yeah, you can, but it fails in comparison to like the current trending shit on like the top 10, 15 trending on Steam games, the top 10 on PlayStation, the top 10 on Xbox or Nintendo. Okay, the like pay to win games are simply just not there. They're not. It's free to play. That's what's there. Or whatever new hotness game just dropped. Yeah, but even then, the new hottest game that just dropped could potentially be another stinker.
Video game industry, but realistically across the entire entertainment industry, and there was a multi-year battle in the courts basically with the US Copyright Office and video game history people and pioneers and people who just basically want to preserve the history of video games. Now this entire battle has been based around the idea.
So I haven't even read any court documents or anything like that. What is this, like the right to, like, once X amount of time passes, like I can just go pirate the game and emulate it and not have to pay any money if the main company that made it in the first place or publisher doesn't choose to like sell it anymore. That's probably along the basic things that they're talking about. I mean, me personally, I would like to be able to emulate old games. Or I mean, shit. Like if these companies were to just simply sell the old games at a discounted value, because there's no shot you're gonna convince me that fucking Modern Warfare 2 original in like what was it, like 2004 or 2008, whenever that game got released, is gonna retain its same $60 value in 2024. You're not convincing me of that ever. All right. Oh, there's a 50% off sale. It's only 30 or 45 bucks or whatever the fuck. No. Shut up. That time has passed. If you want to sell your old ass games, preserve them and sell them at a severely discounted price.
Idea of basically preserving video games in a way where people can still access them and still play them after however many years. I mean, there's multiple different reasons why as time goes on, video games become harder and harder to access, but since we all love video games so much and since we all care about this industry,
I think it's harder to preserve old video games, especially if the old video game was known for multiplayer, because multiplayer, well, any multiplayer really, I was gonna say like specifically FPS, but like any multiplayer game that is like really old, the reason it's hard to preserve something like that is simply the server costs. How many times have you, like, you can look back in your childhood and you have fond memories of the multiplayer, but like there was just something off about it. Maybe it was like just peer-to-peer, it was lag, it was like your dog shit internet, whatever the case may be. But I guarantee you, if you go back, you could easily pick apart like every multiplayer. And because not a lot of multiplayers like nowadays even use like dedicated servers or anything that they're supposed to be doing to preserve competitive integrity for something like that. So simply, it's the server costs, I would say, is the main limiting factor for at least multiplayer games. Single player games, I don't know what's holding them back for that. I just don't.
in this entertainment medium in general so much. Many of us know that, like, the future of the video game industry doesn't necessarily guarantee that these things will be remembered fondly. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that people in future generations will be able to come back and look at these incredible games. So,
yeah.
A 3-year fight to help support game preservation has come to a sad end today. The U.S. Copyright Office has denied a request for a DMCA exemption that would allow libraries to remotely share digital access to preserved video games. Quote, for the past 3 years, the Video Game History Foundation has been supporting with the Software Preservation Network on a petition to allow libraries and archives to remotely share digital access to out-of-print video games in their collections.
Yeah, what the hell? What was the reason that they said, no, we can't do this? Is it because, like, oh, that game that's 15, 20 years old is still relevant, we can still make money off of it? I bet that was the reason. The long and short of it. That's what I bet.
VGHF explains in its statement, quote, under the current anti-circumvention rules in Section 1201 of the DMCA, libraries and archives are unable to break copy protection on games in order to make them remotely accessible to researchers.
Libraries and archives are unable to break copy protection on games. Why? Why aren't they? Give me a good reason. Not some stupid reason. Give me a good reason why they cannot break copy protection. I'll wait.
Essentially, this exemption would open up the possibility of a digital library where historians and researchers could check out digital games that run through emulators. The VGHF argues that around 87% of all video games released in the US before 2010 are now out of print in the...
Oh, okay. Out of print, which means they're not being sold anymore. That's kind of crazy to think about. And I wonder, like, because they say around like 87%, but meanwhile, you could easily go on Steam and see like tons of video games being made at all times and coming out all days. So I wonder what video games from what companies they are including and discluding, or I don't even think that's a word, or discounting from this percentage. I would be interested.
The only legal way to access those games now is through the occasionally exorbitant prices and often failing hardware that defines the retro gaming market. So
Yeah.
there's a massive problem in the video game industry where even publishers and, the companies that own the licenses and the rights to all these different IP, right? They don't necessarily care about how video games are perceived beyond the point of consumption commercially. So let's take Nintendo, for instance, because they're the company, they've been notable in their
Yeah.
efforts to try and like destroy emulation.
Yep, that OG Mario game, that thick ass gray cartridge. Yeah, they still want that. They don't want you to emulate that. They still want to be able to make money off of that.
And tried to destroy game preservation. This is a company that, like I said, many of us, for instance, grew up with like the GameCube or the NES or the Nintendo 64, whatever it may be, right? Now, obviously, these consoles and the games manufactured for them are so old at this point that they aren't on the market really anymore, right?
Yep.
You, for instance, can't walk into GameStop and buy a brand new cartridge of Super Mario World. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say Super Smash Melee, but yeah.
And if you do, you're going to be paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on what game it is that you're trying to buy.
Yeah.
And even if you do finally get your hands on like a physical copy of one of these old games that you want to preserve or, from your childhood or whatever,
That's
physical
crazy.
media ends up failing eventually, right? CDs and DVDs, they eventually rot.
I mean, understandably, a lot of those old ass cartridges for the old games, I think a lot of companies have like made them into digital forms and just resell them in some way, shape, or form in their digital format. So while you can't get a physical copy, like the physical copies are out of print, I think the digital copies are still in print, but it is a little bit more difficult to like try to find somewhere to go get I don't know, the digital version of what do you call it, like Super Mario World 1.
Or break down, hard drives break down, they fucking they decay. Hardware, the parts inside of it maybe become non-functional, or the electrical wires or whatever fray. Things happen, and hardware, everything physical, it wears down. And so eventually, for games that came out in like the 90s, for instance, right, there will come a day where all of the cartridges that we have that save these games or whatever will just no longer work. They'll have rotted and decayed beyond the point of being usable.
Yeah.
And if we don't have, digital archives and we don't continue to physically archive these pieces of work, there is a legitimate chance that these games could literally become lost media or be overwashed in the history books, right?
But if that was like, I can't help but like assume or guess that every individual company has at least some sort of digital version of their game that doesn't require like a physical thing. Like they have to, right?
And I think that is a sad and terrible outcome for video games in general. And this is one of the things I talked about pretty extensively in the book I just published, right? Is the entire gaming industry essentially is trying to bury physical media in general, because publishers, they want to make it to where, you have to play video games always online. They want you to access an online point to be able to play the video game, even if it's single player. They want to be able to shut the game servers off whenever they feel necessary.
I'm not entirely sure if every video game publisher wants to do that. There are some where they don't require you to be online, but I get what you're talking about. Like I would guess like almost, if not all, AAA companies want even the single player games to be online, but I get it.
necessary and kill the game so they can move on to the next project. And when a video game is no longer really making these companies money, they don't view it as anything anymore. I mean, in Hollywood, for instance, when a movie is no longer in the box office and it's no longer making the big bucks, it's still archived. You know, it's still considered history. All these different production studios and shit, they've got entire warehouses full of like master reels for movies and, you know, just like basically preserving all of this shit. But for whatever reason, you know, the video game industry doesn't want to follow suit. They don't want these things to be viewed as artwork, which I don't understand because anyone in their right mind knows that a video game is art in and of itself.
I think... Shit. I was gonna say that maybe in the beginning, people, like, maybe not like in year 1 or year 2 of video games, but maybe like year 3 or 4, even like the most well-received video games weren't necessarily made like for the sake of like art. Maybe they were just being made for like the sake of money. But I can't help to think but that's wrong. Because, I mean, if you got like a piece of media, and then one piece of media is being treated wholly different than another piece, well, I need to know the reasons why this piece of media is being treated differently than a different, like this piece of media.
Itself. And these things are so massively influential. I mean, think of all of the games that have came out over time that you think like, man, I hope my kids get to play that game someday because it's so phenomenal. But yet the industry and a lot of the fans in the industry are against the notion of preserving video games. They don't care about physical media. They don't care about archiving. They don't care about emulation. Or they believe these corporations like Nintendo at face value, and they think that these things are fucking harmful when they're not. And it just blows.
Oh, no, they're not harmful. That is like the polar opposite side. That is the radical other side. If anything, you know, you have like the middle, and then you have like one side, the other side. There's like a radical this side, radical that side. Maybe it's like a little bit like on one side or the other, like a gradient or a spectrum. But I don't think it's like, it's harmful for the culture of whatever country to preserve the video game. Like, bro, are you kidding me? There's no shot you're convincing anybody of that.
Blows my mind. And then consider the fact that 87% of all games released in the US before 2010 are out of print. I mean, these publishers actively choose to stop making these games and to stop creating new copies of them, which created this entire retro market, right? Like when you go and you try and buy a retro game, good luck. I mean, for instance, a couple months ago, I went and I got Pokemon Gale of Darkness and I got Pokemon Coliseum for the GameCube. Both games came with like the manuals, obviously the disc, or well, the little GameCube disc. It had like everything that would come in a normal copy of it. Both games combined were over $400. So imagine trying to actually collect video games and preserve them. You either have to have just fucking buku money basically to spend on this shit, or you basically are just priced entirely out of the market. And all of these games are out of print. So when those games are getting sold, these publishers aren't even making money on that, right? So it really just doesn't make sense to me.
If they're not making money on it, but they don't want you to have it, like, what is I need to know, like, the reason that they're not allowing it, because if they're not allowing it, that would leave me to think the only logical thing is that they have some plan to make money with it. In some way, shape, or form. Like, they have to.
Still, the U.S. Copyright Office has said no. Quote, the register concludes that proponents did not show that removing the single-user limitation for preserved computer programs or permitting off-premises access to video games are likely to be non-infringing, according to the final ruling. Quote, she also notes the greater risk of market harm with removing the video game exemption's premises limitation, given the market for legacy video games. That ruling cites the belief of the Entertainment Software Association and other industry lobby groups that, quote, there would be a significant risk that that preserved video games would be used for recreational purposes. We cannot, of course, entertain the notion that researchers enjoy their subjects for even a moment. More
Well, then, so they would be used for recreational purposes to just simply play a video game in its entirety. Well, you guys refuse to like put them back in print, even if not like a digital format. So you make it, it lasts for like what, 10, 15 years, and then it's just not there, but you still have the game and you just refuse to release it. What? Let me hear the logic. We can't let you preserve it publicly or whatever because people would just use it for recreation. Well, then fucking sell it. Are you retarded?
importantly, this also ignores the fact that libraries already lend out digital versions of more traditional media like books and movies to everyday people for what can only be described as recreational purposes. Members of the VGHF are naturally unhappy with the decision. Unfortunately, lobbying efforts by rights holder groups continue to hold back progress. The group says in its statement noting,
This just sounds like these main companies that have the rights to these games are just being lazy. Like, I would be all for, like, being able to, like, for each, like, little company to be able to preserve their own little IP of game if they sold it.
that the ESA's absolutist position that it would not support a similar sort of copyright reform under any circumstances. So I guess their idea, right, is that, well, if we allow people to create digital libraries where researchers and whatnot can check out copies of video games, and we can preserve these games and preserve their history and the impact that they made, apparently people will enjoy it. Oh my goodness, can you believe it, right? The researchers may have fun with their research. Oh my god.
I know, it's such a meme if you say it like that, dude. Like, are you kidding me? If you think there is still value in the game, come up with some way to at least resell it. Like, why are you guys not, like, maybe I'm not understanding something.
Now, imagine if you heard the same argument be made for, like, historians and, once again, the movie industry, right? Where it's like, well, if we allow people to watch the original Star Wars movie, I mean, geez, what if they enjoyed it while they were researching and, you know, entertaining the classics? Oh my god, what would we do? Like, the whole point of a video game is that it is an...
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like a bunch of people that didn't make the game have control of the game and they don't want to give it up. That's what it sounds like.
Entertainment medium, right? It is an entertainment product. You are supposed to have fun with a video game. That's like saying, okay, well, we're going to preserve the history of comic books. Oh, well, we can't do that. People might enjoy it too much. People might have too much fun reading a Captain America, you know? Like, what kind of stupid fucking argument is that, right? You know, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We can't preserve this recipe that's been passed down for generations for this really awesome stew because people might think it tastes too good, in fact. What if what if people enjoy it too much? Like, what a stupid fucking argument for, like...
None of these people would ever come out and say anything like this publicly, because the moment they do, they will quickly realize how stupid they sound.
Well, we can't preserve history now. And the craziest part is the publishers, they support this. And the biggest argument in favor of it isn't even just like, you know, all people may steal, whatever, right? All the stupid copes that you hear for, well, we can't preserve video games. All of those stupid copes. You know, the main argument is that, well, there is already an established market with the retro gaming market, and what if we were unfair to the people who are selling GameCube games for $500 a pop?
Oh yeah, that is a meme. Selling GameCube games for $500 a pop? Nintendo isn't seeing any of that. You think Nintendo's seeing any of that? No, it's some random fucking listing on eBay that some dude is selling.
When they initially cost like 40, 50, 60 bucks, right? What if we hurt their feelings and they lost money? I mean, honestly, good. That's a good thing. These video games shouldn't cost thousands of dollars for sealed copies anyway.
Yeah.
If publishers don't want to lose out on the revenue and whatnot of people wanting to play these old games, maybe they should continue manufacturing new copies so that
Yeah.
people can buy them at a good price if they don't want that to happen. They literally make money by doing that. Nobody loses in that
Yeah.
scenario, right? People get games cheaper, they're able to preserve.
Because then what is the cope? Oh, everybody's only buying the old games and nobody is buying the new games. Why even bother putting any research and development and effort and resources into like the next installment of XYZ favorite video game when most people don't even want to play the new one?
Them much easier. The corporation makes money for a game that they haven't made in 25 fucking years. Who loses, right? But no, they don't want to do that because, you know, fuck you. That's why, basically. And then when you have the gumption to be like, maybe I shouldn't have to spend $400 to get 2 Pokemon games I liked when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just have like digital access to these games.
Bro, I can't tell you how many times I have emulated Pokemon Red and Blue. I think I've done it at least 3 or 4 times on various like little I don't know what, every time, and it's fun every time.
That even Nintendo doesn't care enough to fucking make copies of anymore so that people can play it and you realize the impact. Oh no, we can't do that. Then people might have too much fun and the guy selling fucking Nintendo games for $900 might get hurt. It's just stupid. It's just so stupid. Video games are the only entertainment medium like this that is viewed in this light. You would never hear, well, I shouldn't say you would never, but realistically, you'd never hear people be like, we shouldn't preserve books. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, people might like reading too much. You never hear people say,
And even then, you can preserve a digital version of a book and still sell it as a digital version. Do that then.
we shouldn't archive Hollywood and make sure that all the American films and whatnot are, you know, kept up or whatever. People might enjoy the movie too much. Like, I'm pretty convinced at this point that if libraries never existed, right, and somebody came up with the concept today, hey, we should make a library where people can go and check out books and movies and other things in our culture. I'm pretty certain if that was, like, actually brought up today, people would refuse it. They'd be like, fuck that, that's stupid. Why would we do that? We used to, like, revel in the idea of archiving our knowledge and all of our media and, you know, realizing the impact that it had and, you know, glamorizing its history. But now with everything digital, we seem to just want to turn away from that at every turn. And the thing about gaming is, you know, digital preservation, that isn't really enough. There needs to be physical preservation that's constantly maintained to account for hardware failures and for, you know, physical media rot and stuff. There needs to be digital archives to, you know, back up the physical archives and provide more accessibility. And there needs to be actual, you know, like communication, I guess, between the publishers, the fans, and the historians. Because why are we...
Oh yeah, I mean, there is. The publishers have clearly communicated they do not want their games preserved. That is the message I am receiving. They want to hang on to that game in the random moment that they can remake, remaster it, and sell it again. That is what is being communicated. That's what I am understanding.
Comfortable with the idea of all of this incredible history just disappearing and being basically inaccessible to future generations. It's just fucking stupid. It really is just fucking stupid. I mean, 90% of all the video games that have ever been created are at a legitimate risk of being just completely forgotten to history. And we just seem to be completely okay.
And we are so lucky to have been able to be there for it, to see that lightning in a bottle, for that little piece of that little span of 20, 25 years.
Okay with that. Like, once again, in the book, I talk about this. Like, why would we allow this? Why are people who are so passionate about video games so willing to watch this happen? I don't know. I really hope that this ends up getting overturned, man. This is just a terrible decision in general. And there's no really good, strong argument for it other than think of the corporation. Think of the sad corporation that shoots itself in the foot, handicaps itself, chooses not to make free money, and chooses not to preserve the art that their employees...
I don't care about the corporation. corporation is even more stupid for not being able to, come out with a digital version, at least for their old ass game. Make an old ass game digital version and then sell it for like $5-10. All right, done deal.
Create. Did you think about their feelings today? Well, anyway, with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, fighting for game preservation and signing out. And that's a wrap on this video.
Cool.
But big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. For $10 a month, you get access to loads of exclusive videos and archived live streams. My members only Minecraft
all
server.
right. Bro, that is pretty cool. I did not know that. I mean, that's very unfortunate. I mean, shit, before 2010. Oh my God. That was like, for me, I think I still was like banging on the Xbox 360. I was still enjoying games on the Xbox 360, just like playing that shit over and over again. Because there was like a time, I think around to the 2010s, maybe like a little bit after, maybe 2011, 12, 13, where I just stopped playing video games because I felt so guilty because I didn't have a job still. And I was just like, so into like just watching people play games, like all the games that I wanted to play, and like, oh yeah, it's so and so game 2, 3, 4 or whatever, and I was just like, oh, I wish I had enough money, wish I had a job. Well, I mean, that's my own fault. I mean, it's whatever. But yeah, man, that just sucks. And these companies are stupid for not doing anything. They just want to sit on it and just let it go. But no, thank you for showing me this, and yeah, I don't know, I'll go check out that book. But yeah, good video, keep it up, and yeah, I can't wait to see the next one. That's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.